And we are going to move on to our final presenter in this session, Madoun Menon, who is a postdoc at the University of Colorado Boulder. And his talk is on enabling Artemis and the Farside Low Frequency Radio Telescope missions with URSA, a testbed for extraplanetary surface telerobotics research.
Hi, can you see the screen?
Yes, we can see the screen.
Okay, thank you, Arun. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Midhun, and I'll be giving a talk on enabling Artemis and Farside missions using URSA. It's a testbed for extraplanetary surface telerobotics research. It's work done by our team, NEST team at the University of Colorado Boulder. So what is URSA? Well, URSA stands for Unity Raw Simulator for Space Applications. And I'll be getting into the details of what's the simulator like, but first let's move on to the motivation behind this development. Why simulators for exploration, science, and robots? Well, we have more and more upcoming missions for extraterrestrial environments, but the difficulty in creating Earth analogs for testing each of these missions is going to be very tough. Also, there are specific phenomena which are very peculiar to each of these extraterrestrial environments which cannot be physically simulated. An example would be the opposition surge on the moon. Another question is going to be the financial viability and turnaround time for many of these mission analogs. Also, a very good advantage with simulators is that it enables easier testing and accurate comparison of algorithms with the ground truth as we know the ground truth. Finally, the advent of virtual reality and augmented reality basically opens out new horizons, and this needs to be tested in various simulators before they can be deployed on the field. Now, how can simulators act as enablers for surface telerobotics? Well, there is substantial amount of scouting, in situ resource utilization, and assembly bar manipulation activities in most of these modern missions. Astronaut or operator time is very expensive, and hence some degree of automation or shared autonomy is required. However, autonomous systems need robust and repeated testing under adversarial or nominal conditions to work reliably. Also, astronauts need to be trained intensively to respond to multiple contingency scenarios that may arise during such long-term missions. However, we have many existing simulators, but they have their own limitations. Let's see what some of these are. So, most of these rely on in-house frameworks or Gazebo, which is an open source 3D robotic simulator for environmental simulation. But these simulators are not scalable with the number of robotic agents inside the simulator or the environment size. Also, the performance is a question because frames per second is usually very less. And also, there is poor support for latest AR, augmented reality or virtual reality technologies, which have huge potential for future development. Now, how is URSA an improvement over these existing frameworks? Well, our approach leverages some of the game engines like Unity 3D because they are fast, scalable, and actively developed. And because they use GPU utilization, they are extremely fast and it can be easily scaled. We can also take advantage of the high definition rendering pipelines and physically based shader systems in these kind of engines. Now, in our case, the environmental simulator and the agent sandbox are compartmentalized, have a modular plug and play architecture. They also display excellent frame rates. And of course, Unity as such inherently has excellent AR and VR compatibility, making this kind of a framework or combination future-proof. Now, what is URSA? Well, URSA is a lunar environment simulator for surface telerobotics and exploration research. Now, it simulates the robotic agent on a lunar environment along with the topography, the photometry, and the terrain mechanics. It's a testbed for vision algorithm research. It can be used for benchmarking and can be used for research of vision-based navigation algorithms. The terrain that you see here is a 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer synthetically generated terrain, and it uses DEMs generated from the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter narrow angle camera mosaic. As far as the simulator is concerned, it has two main components: the environment which you see here, which is made in the Unity game engine, and the robotic agent simulation, which is done in robotic operating system. Now, the Unity ROS bilateral communication is done using a ROS-Sharp library, and time synchronization is explicitly enforced. The rover model that you see here is a Spirit rover, but it's just a dummy rover kept for demonstration purpose and can be swapped out for any generic model. We use the Unity physics engine to simulate the rover dynamics and the wheel-terrain interaction. However, Unity facilitates easily swapping out the physics engines for whatever you like to use. Moving on to the views of the simulator, we see that this is the simulator view. You can see that there are options for multiple perspectives simultaneously, which helps in getting a hang of things much faster. We have the Hapke shader, which is used to model the photometric response of the moon, which in turn models the lack of limb darkening or opposition surge. Now, why the opposition surge is essentially modeled because it causes heavy glare, which in turn affects the accuracy of the navigation algorithms, as will be discussed in later slides. Sun is modeled as a distant parallel reddish light source, and star map can be included. Another important feature is the wheel tracks. Now, the wheel tracks are modeled here, and it's for a reason, because they provide strong visual cues for machine-aided navigation algorithms. They also have strong bearing on the skid, slip, and sinkage of the rover wheels, and hence the motion of the rover. It is an indirect indicator of past trajectory of the rover and also an approximate measure of odometry. The wheel terrain interaction is done using Coulomb friction model, but may be easily solved for more complicated models like the Becker model. Soil bearing strength maps are in the process of being incorporated. We have camera sensor models included as virtual models inside the simulator. Currently, we have done the LiDAR, camera, mono stereo, and the inertial measurement unit with their synthetic measurement noise models from real life. And this helps make the simulator much more realistic. Finally, we have the crater and boulder distributions. Because of the DEM resolution limits, we cannot have very small craters or boulders inside the DEMs. Hence, these are synthetically and probabilistically added to the terrain using existing size frequency distributions known from the current literature. Moving on, we propose multiple applications for URSA in upcoming Artemis and Farsight missions. First one being that it helps to design, research, and test vision-based navigation algorithms for moon or extraterrestrial environments. It can potentially act as a virtual mission analog, and it can act as a sandbox for telerobotics or assembly interface research. Evaluation of navigation algorithms in URSA, we wish to show you a demonstration. Now, navigation algorithms, here we'll be considering a very specific class of algorithms called SLAM, or simultaneous localization and mapping, running in URSA. SLAM, as the name implies, derives, map, and localizes the rover on a terrain. Here we use Visual SLAM, as camera is an ubiquitous sensor with legacy of usage in space systems, specifically on exploration rovers. Now, what a SLAM essentially does is it detects or matches gradients by unique pixel combination signatures called features across subsequent camera frames in a video stream. And using this, it essentially creates a correlation and hence it generates the trajectory of the camera frame. Now we discuss about something called opposition surge. Now, what's an opposition surge? It's a consequence of backscattering backscattering here of the regolith, because of which what you see here is the whitewashing of the pixels as these kind of white patches here. It is essentially happening at lower zero or close to zero visual phase handling, and this is modeled by Hapke shader. It causes saturation of pixels, which in turn results in loss of gradients or features, which in turn causes the visual SLAM to lose tracking. Hence, it is a very important aspect to be modeled. Now we come to the actual implementation of one of the SLAM algorithms. The one which we use is called OrbSLAM. The upper half of the screen basically shows you the Unity simulator where the environment is modeled. What you see here is a camera frame being moved along a predetermined trajectory, and you have a slight indication of the field of view. The lower left half shows you the camera stream input, which comes to ROS, and the SLAM algorithm essentially detects the green cell markers as the features. On the right side, using the features and the correlation and bundle adjustments, what you will find is a point cloud which is being generated for the interface. As you see here, as the camera moves, it is initially able to get sufficient number of features, but as time passes, you see that it starts getting more features, and because of which tracking is disabled. So essentially, this with this we want to show the possibility of using the simulator as a mode of testing these kind of SLAM algorithms. Finally, we would like to come to a final feature of the simulator, which is a tire track implementation in URSA. Now, tire tracks, as we mentioned, are very important. However, tire tracks are high resolution features on any geometric mesh and requires finer mesh. However, having a larger and very fine mesh will make the system go slow with lower frames per second. So what we do is we use tessellation, a very well-known technique in numerical computational science, but with the added feature that it based on the proximity of the wheels onto a particular mesh, it adaptively refines the mesh, and essentially we get a win-win situation where the simulation is speeded up and we still get a high resolution tire track. So coming to the roadmap, we want to basically develop collaborations with interested research groups, labs, and stakeholders. So if the talk or its content interests any of you, we would like to collaborate, and we are
You're
open to
at
that.
9
Please get in touch
minutes.
with us. Thank you, Arun. And we would also like to open source the release for collaborative development of this particular simulator. We want to also generate a terrain DEM generation pipeline by which we can generate the DEMs for any part of the moon from the LRO NAC mosaic without waiting for getting the products from external agencies. We would like to incorporate available property maps. Essentially, we have multiple terramechanical or photometric maps available from remote sense data or research as it stands today. We would like to incorporate that and use that as hypothesis maps for the terrain. We would like to work towards featureless SLAM, essentially, because we saw that SLAM, most of the SLAM algorithms which is done for Earth, it fails because of lack of features. So we would like to move towards featureless SLAM, and also moving towards tighter AR or VR integration so that we can use heads-up displays and haptic controllers in the simulator for designing novel user interface design with less cognitive load on the operator. That would be it. Thank you so much. Thanks to Survey for supporting this research, and I'm open to questions.
That was a great presentation, Madoon. I'd like to point out that Madoon is currently in India, so it is very late for him. So thank you for staying up to give this presentation. Do we have any questions? I have a question. How do you judge how well your simulation replicates the intended environment?
Good question. So as far as the photometric response of the terrain is concerned, we are still in the process of calibrating the shader using available remote sense data and on-terrain imagery from Apollo missions. And for the terrain, we have limited amount of resources for the exact way the terrain looks and the resolution which is available, because from the DEMs what you get is a resolution of close to 1 square meter at most at the very best locations. So whatever is so for the terrain, you cannot compare anything below that scale, but anything above that scale can be compared, and they have their own error tolerances from the DEM generation pipeline. Yeah, so I believe these two are the primary requirements for the, I mean, the two considerations to be done for comparison and verifying with the ground truth.
Okay, thanks. Kaizad has a question, and it is there a timeline on open sourcing your simulator?
Good question. So we are planning to get this published soon, say within 1 to 2 months, beyond which we will be immediately releasing it as open source once it's published.
That's about all the time we have for questions.